Okay, we had that good summary of the news from the last 4 days or so from Mike Closer, really hitting the key points. And now we're going to get a little more interpretation of it with Harry Khachatrian, who's become a regular guest on here. He's up in Toronto, and he has a great Twitter feed, which you can follow at Harry1T6. Harry, what's going on?
Hi, Adam. I've just been, browsing the news feeds lately and, enthusiastically commenting on some of the more interesting headlines of the day and looking forward to talking about some of those.
Yes, as big a deal as the Supreme Court decision is over here on this side of the border today. I want to start with your most recent tweet as of the time of this recording, which is a little less than 3 hours before its first airing. We're talking at 3:40 Eastern Standard Time. And apparently Colin Kaepernick's cops dressed as pigs, or pigs as cops, socks aren't the only famous ones over the last year. This is very interesting what Justin Trudeau wore at Toronto's Gay Pride Parade.
Yes, I think Justin Trudeau has become a bit of a global politician celebrity with his socks particularly. His last big photo op was, I think, at it was either a NATO summit or it was maybe the Paris climate thing, but in any case, it was a gathering of several world leaders, Angela Merkel, Donald Trump, etc. And there was a photo op of basically a large group of world leaders gathered around Justin Trudeau as he was holding up his pants, showing off his socks. And so he's at it again, and this time he's showing off his socks on the world stage at the Gay Pride Parade, where I think this one has to top everything that he's done so far. So if you, I just couldn't think of a more perfect way to sort of summarize leftism than this image. So the actual picture, my description can't do it justice as actually seeing it. So I would really recommend you, if you were to go on my Twitter feed, I do have it in the tweet, and it's a photo of Justin Trudeau high-fiving someone at the Gay Pride Parade with socks.
Well, no, it's not just someone. It's a little girl, which is not the same as an openly gay adult.
Fair. Yeah, it is what looks like an 8 or 9 year old.
It might be a boy,
girl.
Actually. Who knows? Just dressed like that.
That is true. But who knows what the child's parents have decided. So, in any event, he's high-fiving a child while wearing socks that say, I don't know the exact pronunciation. It's something Eid Mubarak, which is the celebration of the end of the Islamic holiday of Ramadan. And then this is during the actual Gay Pride Parade. And really, the only thing that came to my mind was, did he pick these up while he was at Iran's Gay Pride Parade last week, or maybe Saudi Arabia's Gay Pride Parade?
Or maybe on the bright side, they tend to be a little less violent when Ramadan ends, so maybe he is happy that Ramadan is over. I mean, one could look skeptically at that, but you don't think that's what was going through his head?
I don't think so, but that is one possible interpretation. He thought, maybe we'll be down to only one terrorist attack per week now, small silver lining. Let's go with that. This is sort of how this intersectional left-wing politics kind of works. It's like, never mind actual facts, how people who are actually attending this Pride Parade would be instantly executed at these Islamic countries. The more important kind of larger image is this intersectional idea where you have various oppressed groups who form some weird coalition in the minds of liberals, and therefore these two things should go together. So it was really quite amazing, I have to say.
Now, of course, we are pretending there isn't the whole down-low factor going on in Muslim countries, because, if we want to be realistic about it, it's not like this stuff doesn't exist over there. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yes, of course.
On the surface, there's not much gay stuff going on in Islamic countries, but, and that's not even bringing up the whole Afghani fetish for, 11-year-old boys they like? Is it right prepubescent or a couple years prepubescent? I forget. I'm not that familiar with it. And, someone was telling me, I don't know if it was the person I sat next to on the airplane or someone at my nephew's bar mitzvah, it might have been this neurosurgeon there, that apparently Iran has a huge rate of transgender surgery? Like, if you're inclined that way, they just basically change your gender? I know nothing about this, and he may have been talking out of his ass, but I thought that was pretty interesting and not entirely inconsistent with what I've heard about that. Do you know anything about that?
Not specifically, but I wouldn't be surprised about things like that actually kind of happening on the down low, because you never know with governments like that. Actual kind of real statistics are not something that you would see coming out. So yeah, I mean it's definitely believable that there are things happening sort of in the underground or in the black market that no one really knows about, who doesn't live there.
And that would explain who was that guy, Ahmadinejad, when he said at Columbia, we have no gay people over here.
Right.
Well, I guess technically if you change their gender as soon as they have an inclination toward the same sex, that would be a way of getting it towards zero. It doesn't have to only be throwing them off the tops of buildings. Yeah,
I've wondered that myself. Like, is Caitlyn Jenner gay or just a straight woman? Apparently, I don't know. I think the
no. Wouldn't she be a gay woman? Wait, wouldn't he or she be a gay woman? Because Caitlyn Jenner, isn't he or she or it attracted to women still?
I don't know. I saw an interview where Caitlyn said that he or she is now confused and actually doesn't know which way to go. And I can't begin to imagine what's going on in these individuals' heads, but. I don't know. You twist your brain to a pretzel just trying to figure it out.
Well, speaking of gay and gay marriage, and you had a tweet a little earlier related to the Supreme Court decision where it seems like you're taking on some leftists, and you tweeted, and I'll let you give the context in a second, the same, quote, right-wing Supreme Court, end quote, that gave us Obamacare and nationwide gay marriage, and you can sort of give the context and also talk about the follow-up tweet when the guy tried to argue with you after that. Pretty funny. Again, go to Harry's Twitter page. It's great.
The individual's name escapes me. I believe he's leftist on the internet who owns a radio show. His Twitter handle is @DeanOfComedy. I think he's a Muslim guy. Unfortunately his name escapes him, but he's one of these sort of B-list kind of left-wing celebrity commentators.
Is he verified or not? That's the key thing. I'm not verified.
He's verified.
Okay.
Yeah, he's a verified liberal.
Not slumming it like me.
So he tweeted out. I guess for those of you who still haven't heard, the Supreme Court has decided to take up the Donald Trump executive order on the travel ban in October. But until they actually take up the thing in October, they have reinstated kind of large parts of it from what they could actually do right now. And, people on the left were outraged because as far as they were concerned, judges in Hawaii are the ones who run the country, not the president, not the Supreme Court. They have no say when...
Are you saying Hawaii is not a country like Senator Sessions did? It's just an island in the Pacific?
I wouldn't dare to make such a... This is on record, of course. Or the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. Right. And so what he basically tweeted was, as a result of the fact that they've reinstated parts of the travel ban, he dubbed that the Supreme Court was right-wing, which is very interesting because this is the same exact Supreme Court that voted in favor 5-4 in favor of Obamacare and in favor of Obergefell versus Hodge, the gay marriage decision. And someone basically argued, well, it's not the same Supreme Court because Trump made a kind of constitutionalist appointment, which is an absurd argument because the person that Neil Gorsuch was replacing was Justice Antonin Scalia, who is cut from the same cloth. They're both originalist constitutionalist justices who know what they're actually doing, and they're not leftists who kind of look at the Constitution and say, well, this is what it should say. So that's what it says.
Yes, and that may be a more effective argument if some of the rumors are true that we may see the end of Justice Kennedy replaced with a real conservative, or I guess not so much if it's Thomas that's replaced, and certainly Ginsburg is always a likelihood. That's interesting news. Now, another thing I was fortunate to read your page about, we Jews read the Torah every week, and I try to be up on that. I'm not so up on the so-called New Testament. But fortunately, as you emphasized, Chelsea Clinton is there to sort of give us a Bible lesson, and you emphasized that on your Twitter page.
Yeah, she quoted Corinthians on Twitter, which, and again, I can't blame people for quoting the Bible. Like, there's some wonderful lessons, some wonderful values and everything to take from the Bible, and it is a wonderful book. But I think that you should at least exercise some semblance of consistency. If you simultaneously preach that Planned Parenthood is the is the holier place in the Vatican, I don't think that you should at the same time be holding up the Bible and and trying to preach morality to others. But of course, I mean, the irony is lost on Chelsea Clinton, who does not see the inconsistency or the irony of what she's saying. And this, I mean, people on the left do this routinely, where anytime it fits their argument, they'll try to take something from the Bible or from Judeo-Christian religion and use it to push their political views, while at the same time advocating leftist politics, which is antithetical to Judeo-Christian values.
Yes, and it was a very generic quote that, and we both used the wrong name. It really should be Chelsea Hubble-Misvinsky, as I like to call her on the show. And it was just simply, there but for the grace of God go I, which isn't that specific, unlike, say, Leviticus chapter 20, verse 13, which I am guessing Chelsea Clinton will not be quoting anytime soon. You can Google that one at home if you want. But
I think the other one, sorry, just one more quick point. The other one I remember was Barack Obama was a big fan of Cain and Abel when he quoted, I think this was to sort of justify Obamacare and government health care. What he said was, Americans love the Bible. I'm going to quote, I'm going to sort of cite the Bible and say, well, I am my brother's keeper. And sort of that was his way to justify that.
Wait, he did that for Cain and Abel? Of all people. Oh, boy.
Yeah. So, that was his sort of way to justify the fact that you should be totally fine with having the government take away your money to subsidize other people's health care because, I am my brother's keeper. That was, again, Barack Obama's moment of sort of spiritual preaching to the American people.
Yeah, he may want to go with, who is it, Ephraim and Menashe, Joseph's brothers, next time, because Cain and Abel, that relationship didn't end all that well, as most people who are minimally biblically liberated. And just one more tweet from you, which I thought was fun. Jill Filipovich, I remember her name from 5.5 years ago when she got some publicity for herself after her sexual toys became very obvious at TSA, and she milked it for all the publicity that it was worth. But this was a fun one if you want to talk about it. If not, I can just read it.
Can you just read the tweet? I don't...
Okay, she had written, and she's a big liberal, Seattle's minimum wage hike, in parentheses,
yes.
which I thought was a great idea, may actually have cost low-wage workers, to which you wrote, that feel when you slowly realize basic economics actually isn't a right-wing conspiracy against poor people. Well done, Harry.
Yes. I do remember when this was in the news. This was maybe 2 years ago. This was actually being debated. Ben Shapiro from the Daily Wire, he had a really good live debate on, I think it was the KTTH debates, and it was specifically on the Seattle minimum wage hike. And not surprisingly, as the economic arguments he laid out for how minimum wage will play out in the next few years is exactly what happened. Restaurants, and among other businesses, they found it too expensive to pay people $15 for unskilled labor, and as a result, business took a hit. And I do feel bad for the people who are affected by this, but at the same time, I am, I guess, enjoying watching the politicians who kind of virtue signal nonsense now come to terms with the fact that a utopia in which everyone earns enough money doing no matter what they do to raise an entire family and fund their life is just not economically viable.
Yep. Before I let you go, you don't have to respond to this one. You did have another great tweet about 3 hours ago in which you replied to Soldier of Fortune who had written something. Every country on the travel ban discriminates against gays also, who was in agreement with you, and your point was great. Yup, liberals don't actually care about discrimination against LGBT people. I don't know if you discriminate against Q, but you didn't have Q there. I'm kidding. They just hate Christians and conservatives. Well, I mean, I know you only get 140 characters, but they hate Jews too. They don't hate Muslims, but they hate Jews. Especially Judaism practicing ones. But I thought that was a great thing by you. Any final thoughts on this pretty big news day from you, Harry?
Any final thoughts? Sure. I'm just looking to see how I think the big one for me is this kind of news about potential retirement on the Supreme Court. I think that's good. Has a lot of potential things to come out of that in the future. And I think that a Supreme Court nomination has effects that last for generations. So I think that's the biggest thing to look forward to see if it's Ginsburg or Kennedy. Fingers crossed. Absolutely.
And remind people where they can follow you again, Harry.
So you can find me on Twitter at Harry126, where I try to keep up with the latest news and I guess make some humorous comments. And as far as writing goes, I'm working on something right now. Hopefully, maybe the next time I'm on the show, we'll talk about that on the Daily Wire, always. And besides that, there's my personal site, which is linked on the Twitter account.
Great. Thanks for coming on.